Good day and good evening, and thank you for joining the latest episode of the Korea Society's President's Interview Series. In today's installment, we've invited Mr. Kyung Shik Sohn, chairman of CJ Group, one of the most influential Korean corporate leaders. I'm Tom Byrne, president and CEO of the Korea Society. It's a great honor and pleasure to have Chairman Sohn with us to discuss his remarkable career and leadership in transforming CJ from a regional to a global corporation. Indeed, CJ is a Fortune 500 company. Chairman Sohn has served as chairman of CJ since 1994. Headquartered in Seoul, CJ is one of Korea's largest jaebol. Its four main core businesses are food and food service, biopharma, entertainment, media, and home shipping logistics. Chairman Sohn's extensive career spans several decades of unparalleled business leadership and management. He heads the Korea-American Friendship Society, having greatly contributed to fostering the economic ties between Korea and the U.S. Moreover, he is now in his third term as chairman of the Korea Enterprises Federation since 2018, as well as an honorary chairman of the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry since 2013. Welcome, everyone, and we hope you enjoyed today's program as Chairman Sohn will share the past, present, and future of CJ's global business and his guiding philosophy from the standpoint of one of the leading economic figures in Korea. Chairman Sohn, we're honored to host you at the Korea Society, and I can't wait to hear more of your experiences, insights, and vision. So if I could start, I thought I'd start asking you about your background and about your career. You've been with CJ since 1993, and when you were vice chairman of CJ Cheil Jae-dong, and more recently in 2018, you were appointed as co-chairman, CEO of CJ Cheil Jae-dong. So maybe you could give us a little introduction into your career there, and also what has been the most rewarding part of your career at CJ?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me
Mm-hmm.
to this place. I have worked for CJ corporations
Right.
many years. So I think now I'm very much pleased to see the great CJ. So CJ becomes the good, respectable business group
Right.
in Korea. And also CJ is now much globalized.
Right. Right.
So we are very much pleased that we are a global companies.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think the CJ is have much activities here. So
Mm-hmm.
we are I'm very grateful for being within the 500
Right.
companies.
Fortune 500.
Yes.
Right.
So
right.
we are very much pleased.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, right. And I also understand there's a new category I wasn't aware of, but there's a category called the Fortune Change the World Top 50,
Mm-hmm.
and CJ was the first Korean company to be selected to be in that esteemed group, and it picks companies that have a positive social impact, innovation, and what I understand is CJ is in Korea a leader in the ESG,
Mm-hmm.
environmental social governance area. Could you talk more about what you're doing in that area?
Yes, ESG is a very important
Mm-hmm.
areas
Mm-hmm.
we must pursue. I
Right.
think we like to be more green companies.
A green company,
So
right?
it's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And also social governance is
Right.
very important
Right.
at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So we are also encourage other peoples to join us
Mm-hmm.
in the ESG programs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we these days we are much exposed to the the many social publics.
Right.
So
Right.
what we have to do is very, very important
Right.
to
Right.
them. Yes.
Right.
So you want to be a company of very reputable, respectable companies.
Right. Well, obviously you're doing a good job. I understand also that CJ has taken the lead in uh, addressing gender issues, closing the gender gap, and also in employing um, uh, persons who are retired already. I understand CJ has one of the most generous um, uh, maternal leave policies in Korea,
Okay, yes.
right? Mhm. Yeah.
So our population is year by year is
Yes. Yes.
lowering. So
Right.
this is a very big problem
Hmm.
to Korea. In order to keep the growth,
Right. Hmm.
we need to have more populations.
Right.
But our population is reducing every year.
Right.
So we are very much concerned about that.
Right.
And also for, to some extent, we also have very good point. That is, so far, Korean females are not much involved in the business
Hmm.
productions.
Right.
So we had some more peoples waiting for our
Hmm.
request. So I think we will have to manage the population growth very well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Korea has, I think, the lowest fertility rate of all the OECD countries, even lower
Yeah,
than Japan. So you'll have to do whatever you can to get more labor force participation. So getting
yes.
women and older people in the labor force would be, I think, very helpful for Korea. Um, you're also uh, the head of the Korea Enterprise Federation, a position you've served in
Yes.
since 2018. Uh, could you tell us what the mission and of the KEF is?
Yes. KEF was established as a employers
Right.
association.
Hmm.
But since I became the chairman, we have changed
Right.
our mission. We expanded further.
Hmm.
So one is working as a employers association, but also we speaks for all enterprises,
Right.
companies.
Right.
So now we have two missions.
Hmm.
One is for as a the employers association.
Right.
The other is we are the general business associations
Right.
for all companies,
All companies.
including the large corporation
Okay.
too.
Right.
So most of the large corporations are members of KEF.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So we are speaks for them.
Right.
Yeah. And also we speaks to the governments for the sake of Korean large corporation too.
Right. Right. Well, how does your role complement that of the Federation of Korean Industries, FKI, which is a well-known, at least in the U.S. we hear much about that, and also the Korea Chamber of Commerce and
Yes.
Industry. How do you work together, or do you complement each other?
Okay, Korea Chamber of Commerce, where I used to be the chairman,
Right.
has some different features because they are concentrating on the firms,
Right.
companies all over the Korea.
Hmm.
So, but in fact, they have more concentration on the small companies.
Small companies. Right.
So, Korea KEF, our organization, has much concern about the large corporation.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Right. Um, and are one of the so you work with with the employers and the employees, you
Yeah.
work on both sides at KEF, right? Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
about 40% for
Uh-huh.
employers and 60% for all the corporations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I get it. Right. Um, the a recent survey taken
Yes.
by the Korea Enterprise Federation showed that around 71% of firms expected improvement in managerial conditions under the new Yoon administration. Next month, President-elect Yoon, will be inaugurated. What are some of the initiatives KEF is taking to help improve managerial conditions?
Yes, this time we have a good government, I think.
Right. Hmm.
And Yoon's new government will be a very good government
Hmm.
to companies.
Right. Right.
So I think I have two objectives.
Two
One
objectives.
is to make on labor reforms.
Labor reforms. Right.
Labor problems in Korea is very severe.
Hmm.
So sometimes because of labor unions,
Right.
the corporate competitiveness
Hmm.
is down too much.
Right. Right.
So I want to make some labor reforms. But in these two problems, one is we have to uh, change the laws,
Right.
but we have to go through the parliament.
Right.
It's not easy one. It's one thing. Secondly, is we can change with the government agreements some degree of government,
Right.
and also some administrative decisions we can change. So we are now working immediately for the problems with the decree or government administrative decisions. We will concentrate on that.
Right.
And then now the current congressional terms 2 more years. So some in further distance, we will work to change it, laws. So we will work closely with them. And another point is Korea has too much regulations. So deregulation is very important
Yes.
to Korea. So we work very well to for the deregulations.
Right.
So
Right.
this will help all the corporations more competitive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Deregulation is, I mean, from my background, I've noticed this that deregulation is very important for boosting potential
Yes.
growth in an economy. In fact, the IMF, and just a week ago, it issued its annual report on Korea, and Korea did very well in recovering from from 2020, the worst of the pandemic. But its long-term potential growth rate, the IMF says, should be reinvigorated. One way is to have labor market reform, labor market rigidity. So I think your work will be at the forefront and very crucial for to continue Korea's Korea's economic success, I think. If I could turn to maybe some facts about CJ. So your revenue, at least in 2019, was more than $29 billion. Global revenue growth accounted for 36%. So the revenues you generate outside of Korea, 36% of your total revenue growth. CJ now employs 62,000 people around the world. It's a big company. How did CJ achieve this? I mean, what was the key to your success?
Well, first of all, CJ is determined to make the investment on the new business.
Right, right.
So we have worked very hard for that. And also, we wanted to work at the global market.
Right.
So globalization is one of the big aim of the CJ. And we have been successful so far, I think. Yeah. And also, we have some acquisition of overseas companies.
Right.
They add more volume of business
Right. Right.
to CJ.
Right.
Yes. So these are some strategies of CJs.
Right.
At the CJs. Yes. Mm.
Which overseas markets are most attractive for you?
I think at this time, U.S. market is most attractive. I think yes,
Right.
it's U.S. Provide a good atmosphere and environments for free business.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
some other countries we are subject to some governmental regulation, much as we have in the home plan.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And of course, in the U.S., you have each state has its own
Yes.
business environment.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're investing in
Yes.
various states in the U.S.
Yes.
Is there any particular state that you think?
Well, so far most states, but we are working more than 20 states.
20
Yes,
states,
we are
right.
working.
Okay.
So everything is going very well. And so we respect the U.S. and the state governments.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed there's like the new wave, the Hallyu and culture and all everything. There's a new wave in Korean investment in the U.S.
Yes.
Korea is for the U.S. Korea is the sixth largest trading relationship.
Yes.
But in terms of foreign direct investment, Korea is pretty behind there. It's 14, a distant 14 from the top investors in the U.S. But Korea is growing very rapidly. So we welcome your investments in the U.S. It will create a lot of jobs here in the U.S. I think.
Thank you very
That's
much.
good. I think that'll be good. If we could talk a little, focus in on your core businesses a bit. I understand the retail and logistics business is probably one of the largest, providing 37% of your revenue, again, based on 2019 figures. Where are the global logistics? What are you doing in global logistics, and what are the key markets for global logistics?
Well, at the moment, we are the strongest in Korea, home country for logistics. So we want to expand our logistics work operation in the global market.
Right.
And so we work to develop new logistics strategies.
Right.
But in Korea, we now are very much strong in the parcel delivery. Parcel delivery is getting importance in these days.
Right.
So we are very strong parcel delivery companies.
Okay. And you also derive a considerable amount of your revenue in the food bio industry. Are you active in the U.S. or is that mainly a domestic Korean business?
Well, both.
Both.
In the Korean business and also the overseas business.
Right.
Yes.
And then, so these are very important lines of business in any economy. But I think what most of us have heard about is your entertainment business, right? So, I mean, you are a leading, or probably the leader, content and distribution company for film and entertainment in Korea, right? You have such blockbuster films as Parasite, some of the others by Bong Joon-ho, the producer, Mother. I have to say, I did watch Mother. It's one of my favorite films in any category, any regional category, that is. How is what's the outlook for the entertainment industry?
Entertainment business. Well, I think in 1995, around 1995, we decided to go into the entertainment business because there is a new development of technology that is there is more demand from the medias, because we are in the multimedia period. So we have thought that there will be more demand for films or content So we decided to go into the
Right.
entertainment business. That's the primary purpose. Well, so far we are very much successful. So it makes a good profit, and it also provides a good future. Yeah. So when we began the entertainment business, we was the second shareholder of DreamWorks
Oh,
in
yes.
the
Okay.
Hollywood.
Right.
So we used to work with the Spielberg,
Oh, really?
the
Right. Okay.
film directors.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
and he was a great help to us in understanding the entertainment business, particularly the film business.
Okay, good. And I also understand when it comes to K-pop that you are the sponsor of something called KCON that is held in Los Angeles, but also here in the New York area,
Yeah.
in Newark, right?
Also, the Tokyo,
In Tokyo,
Paris,
right? Oh, okay.
yes,
Really
and many
big.
countries.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So,
So we not only concentrate on the film business, but also we go into the music.
right.
So we want to have the music award in several places. So it's a kind of also well, big business so
Right.
far.
Right.
So we are now working very much there. And also we operate 16 cable TV channels like Mnet, the,
Oh, really?
the music channels, so everything. Yeah.
Right. So these are globally accessible,
Sure. Yeah.
these
We think
channels?
so.
Right.
We think so. Yeah.
Great. Great. Um, right. So, we talked about your global operations are becoming more important. Do you have any? Does CJ Company have any priorities? Say in the U.S., which one of your lines of businesses would you like to? Are you planning to grow the most?
I think food business is
Food
very
business,
important.
right? Right.
CJ started from sugar refineries.
Right.
Our first business.
The
Then
JL Don
yes, that's right.
yes.
So we expand
Uh-huh.
further to flours, cooking oils,
Right.
processed meat. Then now these days we have the home meal replacement, what we say HMR.
Uh-huh.
This is very easy cooking at home. Yeah. So it was very necessary, particularly in the days of pandemics. Everybody liked to stay at home and to make the cooking very easily. So we are very much successful, and we draw much demands from the market. Yes.
Right. Right. Um, Keeping on this on a U.S. perspective here, um, the on March 18th, we had celebrated the 10th anniversary. I think it's rightly called a celebration of the U.S. Korea Free Trade Agreement
Yes.
called KORUS. In fact, we had an interview here with Trade Minister Johan Gu
Yes.
about that, and 10 years ago, the trade relation, 10, 20 years ago between Korea and the U.S. was one of conflict and confrontation, and it's changed into cooperation and mutual benefit now. How, in terms of CJ's business, how do you think, is there any tangible benefit that you see from having the KORUS FTA in terms of your access to the U.S. market, for example?
Or FTAs between our two countries it was much helpful to us
Right.
because lowering the tax,
Right.
one thing. Also, because of the FTAs, Korean companies and U.S. companies can expand their business.
Right.
So they are our customers.
Right.
In fact, because we are the company of logistics, if they expand their business, then we will have the more business. So I think we are very happy to see the expansion of trade works. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I remember I lived in Korea some time ago, but there was this issue of screen quotas
Yes,
in the Korean film
yes,
industry,
yes,
and now it's Korea's taking over on sending its movies abroad, not just to
yes,
the U.S. but globally.
yes.
So it's a very, very, very different environment for business, I think.
When we started the negotiation on the FTA,
Right.
U.S. government set one preconditions. That's a release of screen quotas.
Release the screen quotas. Right.
So President Roh Moo-hyun, then the president of our republic, called me and I met him. He said, if there's any problems when we release the screen quotas. So I said, no problem. Please go ahead. And then he talked to other the entertainment peoples. He said, "Oh, Mr. Son, he's crazy. He's not right. He's wrong. Just he called me again, the president. Oh, don't worry about that." So he decided to release the screen quotas. And after that, there's no change of the market situations. So I wasn't wrong.
Well, it's a I introduced you as a visionary business leader.
Yeah.
This is the evidence for it, I
Okay.
guess. And I guess the releasing the screen quotas probably there's more competition and maybe help the famous Korean producers
Yeah.
hone their skills, right?
Yeah.
I would think so. Well, so I guess business relations between Korea and the U.S. are bright and looking better, and I guess there's a lot of potential. What about China? I imagine China is a big market for you in some of your lines of business. How are your operations performing in China?
Well, totally, our exports to China is about 20% or 25% of all our exports. So it's very important
Right.
country. But the items, the products are those which is necessary to China. So we can ship Korean product to China without much problem. But in some areas, they set some regulations, prohibitions. That is one thing is the film business. They don't allow the import of Korean films.
Not even Parasite or Mother?
No. So that is one problem.
Right.
And secondly, they do not allow to have some activities by Korean companies for instance, musics, and also the remake of films, all prohibited there.
Now, aren't those fairly recent restrictions and prohibitions? I mean, years ago, the market you had greater access. I mean, the Korean film entertainment companies had greater access, or is this something new? Is China clamping down in recent years?
Oh, China.
Yeah.
About 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
They stopped because they had some problem with the Korean government. Have you heard of THAAD?
Oh, yes, I've
THAAD
heard
is
of that.
anti-missile.
Right.
So because of these problems, we are for time being stopped. But we are appealing to Chinese government
Right.
to relax these regulations.
Right. So yeah. So when the missile, this high altitude defense, it's a defensive system, was installed because of North Korea's increased activity and their missile activities, the ICBMs and all that. Of course, Lotte had the problem, but CJ also suffered collateral damage from this as well. Yeah. Keeping on the trade front.
But we are operating many multiplex theaters in China.
Right. Are those still
Yeah, but
in business?
not much affected or allowed
Right.
to operate
But not with
such
Korean
theaters.
films.
That's right.
Can they have American films? Maybe they'll be getting more Russian films the way things are going. Um, so, so there's a chorus FTA, and then there's this mega FTA called the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership,
Yeah,
CPTPP. Japan seems to be a leading force in here because the U.S. withdrew
right.
when Donald
Right.
Trump became president. Um, it, will this? Well, two questions. Does the Korea Enterprise KEF Federation? Do you support this? Are you actively, telling the Korean government that Korea should accede to the CPTPP? And would this increase your business opportunities in Southeast Asia, for example?
Yes, certainly
Certainly. Hmm.
we support it.
Right.
Yes.
Hmm.
So Korea is an open country.
Right.
So
Yes.
we wanted to have more exchange of business with the overseas
Right.
countries.
Right. 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 Um, I can't let this opportunity go without mentioning the pandemic. How has the pandemic affected your business, or are you resilient to it? Are you recovering from it?
Well, some affect positively,
Right. Hmm.
but some affect negatively.
Right.
For instance, we have good logistics business.
Hmm.
So our delivery parcels for home meal replacement,
Right.
we had the growing the demands from the market. So
Hmm.
we enjoy
Hmm.
such a phenomenon. But on the other hand, we are operating multiplex theaters. The government do not allow to the people's
Right.
many people
Right.
get together.
Hmm.
So we has a much loss of business in such areas. So if we get the totals, some positive, the others some negative. So I think we are standing equally. I think.
But this year in 2022, do you think the negative effects will be receding? And
I hope so.
I hope so
I
too.
hope so.
Yes.
Yes.
The pandemic's been around here for too long. Um, you've been a strong supporter of the Korea Society, and in 2018 you received the annual James A. Van Fleet Award from the Korea
Yes.
Society. We had that. It was before the pandemic, so we had the dinner at the Plaza Hotel here in New York City. For those of you who aren't up on the history of Van Fleet was the longest serving commander, the UN commander during the Korean War, and the founder of the Korea Society. But when I met you right before that dinner, you came to New York, you had mentioned that you had just returned from Pyongyang.
Yes.
And this 2018 was a year of the summits between North Korea, South Korea, North Korea, and the U.S. What was it like being up in Pyongyang? Did you get any sense that there was great hope that maybe things would improve and North Korea would open up a bit? What was your take on the North Korean attitude towards Korean business and becoming more of a normal country?
Well, I think they are not prepared to have a bigger business.
Right.
So everything is quiet.
Hmm.
Not many people on the street.
Right. Hmm.
So not many shops, retail shops. It was very difficult to find out that. So I think in such circumstances, I wonder if they have any innovations or improve the productiveness. It is very hardly to expect that.
Yeah.
So now we are at the era where we compete each other in the global markets. they have no chance to do that.
They wouldn't. No.
So I'm very much worrying about them. I hope North Koreans make a good living for their peoples.
Right.
But if they continue this trend, then I'm very sorry to say that the North Korean people are not so much happy.
Yeah. 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 Well, this is. I mean, it's poor. Its
Yeah.
purchasing power is really
Yes.
low for the average citizen in North Korea. Yeah, I was also hoping maybe there was a glimmer of hope in 2018 that North Korea would open up and change its ways. It did that a little bit in 1997, at the time of coincidentally the IMF crisis in Korea, but that hasn't worked out. I'd just like to conclude with so the Korea Society. This is its 65th anniversary this year, and what do you think? In which way can the Korea Society play a greater role in fostering ties between the people of Korea and America?
I hope Korea society make more chances, opportunities for the corporations of each country meet together and discuss and have exchange of the opinions. And that's very important. If Korea society has done such a way as he did in the last days, we will be very appreciated.
Yeah.
For
Yeah, well, that's certainly a win-win
Right.
situation, and
Yes.
it's we have a strategic plan now at the Korea Society, and that's one of our areas of focus. In fact, we'll have we're planning a national outreach program in Atlanta where we there's a big focus on Korean investment
yes,
in the U.S. and how American companies play into this. This is an area that interests me as much because I'm not a diplomat. I have a finance and economics background, so hopefully we'll be able to make further strides in this area.
yes.
Well, thank you very much for coming to New York City here at the Korea Society and sharing your thoughts.
Before finishing,
Yes.
I'd like to express my gratitude to Korea Society for what they have done so far to me and also to our country.
Well, thank you
We
very
thank you
much.
very much.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Sohn.
Thank you.